I'm Jonas, this is Denver. This is Dallas, and this is Josh. We did our presentation on PC builds and hardware.
We studied this year about printers and how to set them up and repair them. Same thing with laptops. We learned how to install several operating systems. We built our own computers. We overclocked our computers and we did troubleshooting theory.
Okay, so what is a PC? A PC is a personal computer. It's what you're probably familiar with using. It's just the little box that sits in your desk and outputs to a monitor. You do your Excel on it and whatnot. Hey, Ransom, look at you. All of its components together form a PC. I mean, CPU does all most of the processing. The GPU does the video processing. The RAM does all the temporary memory handling, and the hard drive stores all your data.
So our KCTC builds were this thing that we did earlier this year, and it's what we have in our monitors right now. It's we went to their warehouse over there and we grabbed all our individual parts, and we came back and we put them together. Yeah, the screws out.
Right, just keep going,
So we're gonna take this apart real quick. Are we?
Yeah.
All right.
This would be a part in the real presentation, just so you
Right. So this is what we made. Inside is all the parts that we had. We had the motherboard, the hard drive, and a few other things like fans and whatnot. Yeah. And all I said, right? Like,
No, you got.
This is not actually going to be a part of the
parts.
Wait, this is
We're
Normally
going to
we'd
take it
have one of
apart.
these open, but
Yeah, we
Jonas-
just don't have it yet. Jonas was lazy.
This isn't my fault.
By the way, this is PJ's.
You
so
told
we
me
know it's
before we
okay.
started.
This is PJ.
This is
PJ's not coming back, sorry.
our fellow PJ. May forever live
Thank you, PJ, for your computer and donating it to the Dallas and Jonas Foundation.
You can't hold the fuse. You gotta hold it in the
All right.
Alright.
So in here we got our fans that we installed right there. We have our hard drives, our power supply, and the motherboard with the graphics card, another fan, and the CPU in there.
Alright, so a vital part to building a computer is knowing the form factors of the parts that you're going to build your computer with. And the form factor is basically the size and shape of the part. So the motherboard, what we have here, as you can see, is quite small. It's smaller than what is usually used in home computers, which is ATX sized. And as you can tell, it fits quite well in the case, but if the form factor was too big, then your computer build wouldn't work, because it would obviously not fit in the computer. And like many parts have form factors to them. Power supplies do, like I said, the motherboard does, and so on.
A power supply unit basically just provides power. It converts AC power into DC power, and the form factors are like LPX, ATX, SFX.
Yeah, ATX and BTX, ESP, ESP.
I think they get the point.
Our motherboard is a Gigabyte F2A numbers. It allows communication of all the parts you see here, so the RAM, the CPU, and the graphics card, as well as a couple other things like such as the interfaces up here, the power button. It links everything together, so it's got slots for PCIe, which allows for fast data transfer to and from the graphics card to the CPU, and yep. It holds the north and south bridge, which allows SATA to communicate to the CPU as well.
Alright, CPU is right here under the CPU fan right there. And I'm gonna do I got it. So this is going to be the CPU. Yes. No. as you can see, there's a bunch of pins right here, and it's very fragile. And if you dent even just like one or two of those, it's not even going to fit in the right thing, the holder right socket. And obviously, if your CPU doesn't even fit, it's not going to work. So you got to have that. So yeah, that's the CPU.
Do they all look like that?
Mostly, yeah.
They're very similar, but AMD processors, they'll have these little pins on the processor, while Intel, it looks different. Like the Intel processor, it kind of looks like flat gold pieces on it. Like I have one at my house.
Pins are on the bottom,
Yeah.
which is a new technology. They use that.
We didn't know what the CPU does, but that's all right.
That's fine. You guys,
I mean, I was going to go there, but
these guys are IT professionals.
right, definitely.
Alright, and so RAM is, or random access memory, is basically, it's not hard drive memory where it's not storage that is permanent, but it's just temporary. And so the different speeds, like double DDR4, DDR3, DDR2, and DDR stands for double data rate. And of course, the higher the number, the faster it will be. And the main slots can be, here are some examples: RIM, SIM, DIM, and SODIMM.
Graphics processing unit, it basically just renders all your images. You can run a computer without a graphics card, but it depends on what kind of CPU you have. It's basically just a special microprocessor that turns 2D and 3D images. It's called 2D and 3D graphics to the CPU into images, so it displays on your monitor.
Fans and cooling. So in this case here, we've got the CPU fan, which is on top of a heat sink to draw power or to draw heat out, using little tiny micro copper tubes. You've got an intake. Okay, this one doesn't have an intake, and an exhaust, which is the most optimal cooling setup, where it would pull in air in here, it would take the heat off the parts, and then exhaust it out here. These are good, or this is required because both your GPU and your CPU are going to run based on the temperature that they're at, as well as some other parts in there can change in performance based on temperature. So,
All right, the case here, this is our Ultra Mid Towers. They're really simple cases. There's not much to them. It's got all the basic spots for all your basic components and all that. And all the case does really is just protects the inside. It gives it nice, what's the word? Well, I know. It just keeps all the parts safe. And what?
Does that mean that every case is safe?
Yeah. Yep. The part fit for a computer.
Cases are also very, you can modify them quite a bit, but usually they'll come with very few fans. But this one, you've got a fan here. Most cases, you can put fans on the sides. In most cases now, they'll come with a place to put fans up top here. That's where you'd most likely put a radiator for water cooling, which is another type of way of cooling. And that's actually what these grommets can be used for as well. Thank you.